Amazing heroism, a humble cleaning lady jumped in to save a millionaire's son from drowning. Sarah wiped her brow, the sun hot on her back as her mop slid rhythmically across the pristine marble floor. The mansion was breathtaking, a collage of opulence, glistening chandeliers swaying languidly overhead, and splashes of color from the flower arrangements danced in the light. But none of it impressed her as much as the thought of Tyler, her teenage son, with dreams as bright as the afternoon sun. She envisioned him in a college dorm with his head buried in books, far from their financial struggles. Tyler's future consumed her thoughts, simmering beneath her hard exterior. She wanted for him what she never had a chance to step outside the shackles of their modest life. That hope was the one thing that kept her pushing through grueling hours of cleaning homes that would never feel like her own. Yet, today felt different, charged somehow, and the air buzzed with an unspoken tension. Suddenly, a scream shattered the tranquility. "Jake!" The voice was strangled with panic. Sarah's head whipped around just in time to see the wealthy couple's son, a carefree teenager with a winning smile, slip beneath the surface of the pool, oblivious to the lurking danger. Without a thought, in a heartbeat, Sarah sprang into action. She dove in, the cold water enveloping her like a shroud, swallowing her whole. She kicked hard, desperation propelling her through the turquoise depths until her hands found Jake's flailing body. Grabbing him with the strength of a mother's love, she fought against the weight of the water and pulled him up. Gasping, she surfaced, and the sun blinded her momentarily. Jake coughed and spluttered, his face morphing from panic to relief. The clamor of the surrounding crowd blurred into an indistinguishable hum as applause crashed around her like waves. News spread fast, headlines screamed her name, heroic cleaning lady. And for the first time, Sarah felt eyes on her that didn't look right through her. She was no longer invisible. Yet the cheers from some felt like daggers to others. Whispers of class and privilege floated around her. Critics dismissed her act, quick to point out that she was just a cleaner, even while the grateful family praised her bravery. A storm brewed in the community, and Sarah felt the weight of their judgments pressing down on her like the water she'd just fought through. In the days that followed, she grappled with the dual weight of relief for Jake's life and resentment for their dismissals. Did they see her contribution, or was she too far down the social ladder to ever really be recognized? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just when Sarah thought she and Jake's family would never bridge the gulf forged by their backgrounds, something shifted. The parents began reaching out, their gratitude spilled into coffee chats where pleasantries turned into heart-to-heart moments. Days turned to weeks, and a genuine friendship began to bloom. But the tension came to a head during a community meeting. Voices raised, hearts pounding. The topics of privilege and respect ignited the gathering. As accusations were hurled and divisions deepened, Tyler stood, a small beam of hope struggling to break through the noise. His mother's heartbeat drummed in her ears as he prepared to share the truth, a truth that could shatter stereotypes and expose the raw fabric of struggle and dignity. With eyes wide, the crowd turned toward him. Would they finally see how deep Sarah's sacrifice ran? Would they understand the real heroism hidden in her humble world? The air hung thick with uncertainty, as Sarah prayed for recognition, for understanding, and for the chance that the world might finally change. Tyler cleared his throat, the weighty silence in the room amplifying the sound. Sweat beaded on his brow, and for a heartbeat, he hesitated. He glanced at his mother, whose eyes were locked onto his, filled with an unspoken plea. As those powerful stares surrounded him, he felt a rush of determination. "Mom is more than what you see," he finally said, his voice steady in the tumult. "She's always fought for us, for me. You think she just cleans houses, but you don't see the sacrifices she makes every single day." A gasp echoed through the room, followed by a murmur of disbelief. Some people shifted awkwardly in their seats while others leaned forward, hungry for his next words. The richness of his mother's struggle filled the air like an aroma of coffee, bitter yet warm. When I was younger, I didn't understand the value of hard work. I thought it was normal to take things for granted. But then I saw her. Tyler's voice broke slightly, emotion knotting in his throat. I saw her work late hours, sometimes falling asleep at the table. I saw her smile even when there was barely enough food on the table. Whispers swirled around him. He could feel the discontent crouching like a shadow. Still, he pressed on, unwilling to be silenced. When she saved Jake's life that day, it wasn't bravado or a show of courage for the cameras. It was instinct. A mother's instinct. Several people nodded, the flicker of understanding igniting their expressions like fireflies in the dark. The shift in mood was palpable. Do you think a woman, just doing her job, could dive in like that if she didn't care? No one taught her how to swim in wealthy pools. She did what any mother would do for her child, regardless of the barriers thrown in front of her. As he spoke, the weight of judgment began to lift. In that moment, the community seemed to exhale in unison, ready to absorb what they were hearing. Tyler could see it in their faces. I don't want pity, he continued, but rather respect for who my mom is. This is where we're all wrong. We think her worth is tied to her job. But her worth is immeasurable. It's in her heart, her spirit. As he finished, a wave of applause rippled through the audience, but it wasn't just about applause. It was an awakening, a recognition that transcended class. Faces softened, and for the first time, Sarah felt the weight of many eyes transform from judgment to empathy. The chairman of the meeting, a stout man whose stature seemed to match his heavy attitude, cleared his throat. Thank you, Tyler. We need to do better. We need to talk more about the real heroes in our community, those who break down the barriers. Sarah felt a warmth unfurl in her chest. Perhaps they were finally beginning to understand. Yet, as the meeting progressed, she caught the eye of one of the wealthier families present. The woman's face mirrored a storm of emotions: discomfort, confusion, but beneath it all, perhaps even a hint of admiration. As the meeting adjourned, people trickled out, and although some expressed their newfound respect, others remained unmoved. Mom, Tyler said softly as they walked out together, do you think they'll ever really see you? I don't know, she replied, her voice trembling as they stood on the steps of the bustling community center. But it feels like the world may be shifting. Maybe this is just the beginning. But was it? The edges of change often seem uncertain and elusive. Just then, Sarah's phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen, an invitation that made her entire body tense with anticipation, a glamorous gala hosted by the wealthy family whose son she saved. Would she go? Could she face them again, after all that has been said? Suddenly, the lines between fear and possibility blurred. With a glance at Tyler, she felt that familiar surge of hope. What if this could be another chance to change everything? As she pondered what lay ahead, the uncertainty hung heavy in the air, charged with both excitement and fear. What would her choice reveal about her and the world around her? Would this opportunity become her next act of heroism or tighten the chains of judgment? She took a deep breath, ready to step into the unknown. Sarah's mind raced as she stepped away from the community center. The invitation felt like a doorway, one half opened, revealing the unknown beyond. She clasped the phone tightly, the edges biting into her palm, an anchor tethering her to reality. Tyler, she said, her voice barely a whisper as they walked toward their car. What if I go to that gala? He turned to her, eyes wide, brimming with confusion. Mom, you really want to go back there? After everything? It might be the chance we need. Maybe we could show them who we truly are. But doubt flickered in Tyler's eyes. It's still their world, Mom. Do they really want to see you, or just the story they can sell? Sarah paused, searching for the right words. I think it's about more than them. It's about us. If I can walk in there, stand proud, maybe those who doubted us even just a little might change their minds. Her resolve surprised even herself, but beneath it lay a current of fear. The thought of stepping into that glittering world, where she once felt invisible, was overwhelming. As they reached the car, she hesitated, deliberating. Tyler placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "You've already done something incredible. Just being you is more than enough." His faith made her breath catch. "What if they still see me as just a cleaner?" "They already saw you as more than that," he insisted, a spark in his voice. "You saved a life, Mom. That means something." Torn between anxiety and courage, Sarah sighed, weighing her options like heavy stones on a scale. Should she let fear restrain her, or allow the flicker of hope to guide her? "Let us do it," she decided finally, the words leaving her lips with unexpected strength. "Let us show them who we really are." The drive home felt different. The streets passed by in a blur, each light twinkling with a promise of a night filled with possibility. As they pulled up to their small home, the warmth of the evening settled around them, a cocoon of warmth amidst the daunting reality awaiting them at the gala. That night, as Sarah carefully chose her outfit, a simple yet elegant dress that hugged her figure without compromising her humility, she felt a shift within herself. She was more than a cleaner. She was a mother, a warrior, a survivor. Tyler stood at the doorway, watching her with admiration. "You're going to be amazing," he assured her, pride shining in his eyes. "I hope so." As she put the final touches on her look, she caught her reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back was filled with determination. But the question loomed large: could she truly step into their world and be seen, or would she just be swallowed by it? The night of the gala arrived, the air electrified with anticipation. As they approached the extravagant venue, Sarah felt her pulse quicken. The lights sparkled like stars in a midnight sky, the laughter and chatter of well-dressed guests swirling around them. With every step, her heart hammered louder. Among the throng, she recognized the wealthy family. Anxiety gnawed at her stomach, but alongside it, a fierce pride ignited. "Remember, just be yourself," Tyler whispered before they stepped through the grand entrance. Taking a deep breath, Sarah nodded. As the heavy doors parted, she felt time stand still for an instant, the world outside fading away. What would await them on the other side? Would her bravery lead to newfound respect or deeper judgments? As they crossed the threshold, Sarah glimpsed something flash in the crowd: an old friend turned enemy, a familiar face that held the weight of unspoken words. The night had only just begun, and already the stakes felt higher than she could imagine. But one thing was sure: this was a battle she was ready to fight, for herself and for the story of every underappreciated soul. Would she break through the glass ceiling of their perceptions, or shatter entirely under its weight? The moment Sarah stepped into the gala, the atmosphere enveloped her like an unwanted embrace. The air crackled with sophistication, laughter echoing from every corner as waiters glided by with trays of shimmering hors d'oeuvres. Each platter seemed like a reminder of the vast divide between her world and theirs. Tyler's hand tightened around hers, grounding her amid the tidal wave of opulence. "Stay close," he murmured, his voice low but firm. She needed that reassurance. The pressure to fit in felt like a weight on her chest. As they made their way further inside, a cascade of familiar faces turned, their conversations momentarily suspended while they registered her presence. Sarah's heart raced, embarrassment bubbling beneath the surface as whispered judgments danced through the air. Among the crowd, her gaze was drawn to one face in particular: Marissa, a woman who had once enjoyed a close friendship with her, back when they shared more than just a social hierarchy. Memories flooded in, warm and bright, then dimmed by the realization of how differently their lives had unfolded. Marissa's expression flickered from surprise to something darker as their eyes met. It sent a chill racing down Sarah's spine. "Let us get some air," Tyler said, breaking her reverie. They stepped onto the terrace, where the cool night wrapped around them like a refreshing balm. The city light sparkled below, a sea of flickering diamonds against the deep navy sky. What if they just see me as the hero and not as me? Sarah confessed, staring at the horizon. What if that's all I'll ever be to them? Tyler looked up at her earnestly, his brow furrowed with concern. Then that's their loss. You're so much more than a moment in time, Mom. You're real and you're here. His words hung in the air as she absorbed them. Maybe she was more than a label. Underneath the shame and fear, there was still a woman who had fought for her place in the world. Before Sarah could respond, a voice broke through her thoughts. Well, if it isn't the heroine herself. Marissa stood there, a cocktail in hand, an uncertain smile plastered across her face. The air thickened with tension as Sarah shifted from hope to apprehension. Marissa, Sarah managed, the name feeling foreign on her tongue. It's good to see you. Marissa chuckled lightly, yet this laughter felt oddly sharp. I didn't expect you to come, especially after what happened. You know how tabloids can twist things, right? Tyler's hand slipped away from his mother's as he glanced at the ground, sensing the increasing strain in the air. Can we just be normal for a second? He interjected, his youthful frustration manifesting in the clenched fist at his side. The smile on Marissa's face faltered, but the edge in her eyes was still unmistakable. Normal? You were just a cleaner before all this, weren't you? How's it feel to be a celebrity? Each word landed like an uninvited jab, and Sarah's breath hitched. Who was she to Marissa? A story? A cautionary tale? Suddenly, she felt exposed, stripped of her determination. Being a cleaner doesn't define who I am, Sarah finally replied, her voice steady despite the flutter of her heart. I'm proud of what I did, and I'm not ashamed of how I started. Marissa raised an eyebrow, the surprise evident on her face. Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. The moment lingered, heavy like a storm cloud, and Sarah found herself consumed by a swirling mix of anger and strength. Suddenly, she wasn't just fighting for herself, she was fighting for all those who'd been overlooked and undervalued, but just as the conversation took a turn towards something deeper, a commotion erupted from inside the venue. Cries of surprise and fear rippled through the crowd, and Sarah instinctively turned toward the source of the noise. What was happening? Even amid her personal battle, something bigger was unfolding, and her heart lurched in anticipation. Stay close. She called to Tyler and darted toward the chaos, a rising tide of adrenaline carrying her forward. What awaited her in that swirling vortex of uncertainty? Would she once again be the one to act, or would she find herself swept away? As Sarah plunged back into the gala, her heart raced louder than the laughter ringing in her ears. She felt the weight of Marissa's curious gaze still glued to her, but the cries from within demanded her full attention. People surged toward the entrance, panic edging their features. Waiters stumbled over themselves, dropping trays of untouched food as they rushed past Sarah. In that chaotic swell, she spotted a small group gathering near the fountain. A boy no older than Tyler was struggling in the water. The contrast between the joyous extravagance around the fountain and the impending danger felt surreal. Fear shot through her, but deep within, a fierce determination began to bloom. Tyler. She scanned the crowd for her son. I'm right here, Mom. He shouted, his voice cutting through the noise. He closed the space between them, eyes wide with fear. What should we do? Call for help. She commanded, eyeing the fountain again. Time was already slipping through her fingers. She sprinted toward the edge of the fountain, where a few guests stood frozen, gaping rather than acting. Ignoring them, Sarah kicked off her shoes, the sensation of cool stone beneath her feet momentarily grounding her. She had always feared this kind of moment would overwhelm her, but not tonight. She endured too much to stand idle now. She dove into the water, a shock of cold enveloping her. The boy was flailing, his cries muffled by the splashes. Her instincts kicked in, and she fought through the hard pull of the current. Each stroke became powered by desperation, by the instinct to save a life, any life. Hold on. She called, keeping her gaze fixed on his panicked eyes. I'm here. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the churning water. Just a few more strokes, a prayer whispered through her mind, don't let him drown. She reached for the boy, grabbing his arm and pulling him close. The commotion faded momentarily, consumed by the fight they both faced. Just breathe. She shouted against the water that lapped around them. I've got you. With one strong kick, she turned, pulling him with her as she fought to get back to the edge. The boy's body slackened when he felt her grip, the panic easing just enough. With her final effort, she surged to the surface, gasping for air, buoying him alongside her. When she leaned against the fountain's edge, her arms trembling under the weight, the crowd erupted into gasps and frantic murmurs. She could taste the salt of sweat mingling with the water on her lips, but she wouldn't let go of him. In that moment, she was no longer just a cleaner or a hero. She was Sarah, the mother, the fighter. Someone get a towel. Tyler's urgent voice broke through the crowd. He rushed in, eyes wide with pride and anxiety as he reached out to help pull the boy from the water. Once back on solid ground, the boy coughed, sputtering water and gasping for breath. Relief surged through Sarah as she looked up, catching Marissa's incredulous stare from the fringes, her earlier bravado silenced. Why didn't anyone else help? Tyler's voice was raw, directed at the onlookers who still regarded the scene as if it were an unfolding drama. Not everyone knows how to act, Sarah replied softly, running a hand through her damp hair. But that doesn't mean we can't. Amid the expressions of shock and newfound respect, a warmth blossomed inside her. Maybe she had been wrong about the weight of her past. The battle she fought now was not just for herself, but for everyone who felt small, overlooked, and unimportant. But just as the pressure around her started to ease, the gala's air shifted again. The doors slammed open with a force that echoed throughout the hall, and an imposing figure stood there, silhouetted against the light. A man stepped forward, and every whisper faded as recognition dawned on her. It was the boy's father, a powerful millionaire. A tense silence enveloped the room, thick with unspoken judgments and questions. He scanned the crowd, a mixture of rage and relief contorting his features as he locked eyes on Sarah. Who are you? His voice boomed, each word sharp and laden with authority. The moment hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. What would happen next? Would her act of bravery cement her place among the elite, or would it draw the ire of those who felt threatened by her rising strength? In that instant, surrounded by the glimmering chaos, Sarah braced herself for anything. Would she remain steadfast against the might that loomed ahead, or would the tides of her life sweep her away once more? The atmosphere crackled with tension as the crowd held its collective breath, waiting for the Millionaire's reaction. You could almost feel the weight of the room shifting, people drawn to the unfolding drama like moths to a flame. Sarah steadied her breath, awareness flickering through her like the glow of a firefly. The man advanced, his features sharp and closely scrutinized by those around him. I asked who you are, he repeated, each syllable layered with authority. Why, you don't need to do this, Tyler intervened, stepping forward with fierce protectiveness. My mom just saved your son. His voice quivered, but there was a fire behind it. Sarah shot him a glance filled with pride and gratitude. The boy's father's gaze softened for a fraction of a second, but quickly hardened again as he regarded Sarah. Is that true? His voice, though less thunderous, carried an unmistakable strain. Yes, Sarah spoke up, her voice steadying. She stepped forward, reminded of the stillness she'd found underwater, a place where clarity emerged from chaos. Your son was in trouble, and no one helped. He interrupted, eyes darkening. They flicked around the room, eyes glancing away or meeting his own with awkward shame. I don't know what happened, she stammered. People were shocked. He crossed his arms, the muscles in his jaw tightening. It was evident he battled an internal storm, a mix of fear, helplessness, and a touch of anger directed at the crowd and perhaps at himself. Why did you jump in? He asked, lowering his voice slightly, the edge softening just a bit. For him, she replied, gesturing at the boy still recovering by Tyler's side. Because someone had to. Out of the corner of her eye, she caught Marissa's lingering stare, no longer filled with judgment but something akin to admiration. Suddenly, the room felt charged, not merely with accusations but with respect, not just for a life saved but for the sheer courage it took to act. The millionaire's expression shifted, from steely to searching. "You're a cleaner," he assessed, almost with pity. "Yes," she replied firmly, refusing to diminish herself in that moment. "But that doesn't define who I am." For a second, silence hung over them again. A small audience of well-dressed guests stayed glued, caught between intrigue and discomfort. Conversations faded. Sarah's pulse quickened. "So, what's next?" he inquired, lowering his voice further, and for just a moment, his tone harbored a trace of respect. "What does a cleaner want from me?" "Nothing," she answered, voice unwavering. "But for the first real time, I want you to see me." His gaze bore into her as if trying to decipher the truth in her eyes. The crowd held its breath, understanding and tension pulsed between them like an unsaid pact. "Then maybe I can grant you that," he finally said, an unexpected softness in his tone. "But know this, the world isn't kind to those like you." His words were heavy, filled with both warning and acknowledgement. Sarah nodded, determination coursing through her as she felt her heart race in her chest. "You're right. But I refuse to be afraid anymore." The boy she saved stirred, standing a little taller beside Tyler, as if recovering his spirit with her resolve. The audience, having held their silence long enough, began to murmur among themselves. Their faces shifted from worry to admiration, rippling through the room. Sarah's heart filled with hope. Perhaps tonight was not just a chance to save a life but a possibility for change. And then something unexpected occurred. Tyler stepped closer to her, his small hand clutching hers tightly, an emblem of their united front. Before she could say another word, a figure from the back surged forward, pushing through the crowd. It was a woman with a fierce look in her eyes, storming in like a whirlwind. "How dare you threaten her?" she shouted, piercing through the confusion. All heads turned toward this new arrival. Who was she, and what did she have to say? Would her voice uplift Sarah, or would it add to the chaos unraveling around them? The tension remained thick in the air, questions percolating with every heartbeat. The crowd parted slightly, eyes darting between the newcomer and Sarah. The woman stood tall, fiercely protective, her gaze sharp enough to cut through the air. An air of urgency hung around her. She exuded a raw energy that sparked curiosity and unease. "Who are you?" the millionaire demanded, brows furrowed. He took a step towards her, his energy shifting from furious to curious. "Catherine," she shot back, without flinching, her voice carrying a weight that drew attention. "And I'm not here for pleasantries. My friend just put herself in danger to save your son. Show some respect." Sarah felt a wave of relief wash over her. Catherine's presence brought strength, as if the room had become a fortress around them. She sensed she was no longer alone. "I understand you're worried," Catherine continued, her tone inviting yet firm. "But the real threat here isn't Sarah. The threat is that tragic moment when someone like her has to jump in to save a child while everyone else stands frozen." The millionaire's expression morphed from indignation to contemplation. He looked between Sarah and Catherine, his shoulders relaxing marginally. "I didn't know," he murmured, his voice barely audible. "I just thought you were the only one that mattered." Catherine cut in. "Is that it? The world doesn't revolve around your status. But let me tell you something, Sarah saved your son. And now it's time for you to step out of your bubble." Tyler, still holding Sarah's hand, looked up at her, confusion and admiration mixing in his young blue eyes. The tension in Sarah's chest eased a little. Could this really shift something in the millionaire's heart? The millionaire's silence stretched further, holding everyone in its grip. Sarah glanced around. Whispers rippled across the crowd like waves, uncertainty mixing with unexpected solidarity. She could see some people nodding, their expressions shifting from judgment to acceptance. "She doesn't care about your money," Catherine continued, her voice rising slightly. "She's not looking for pity or charity. She's looking for the same recognition every human deserves." As the words sank in, Sarah's heart raced. Would he stand tall, or cower behind walls of pride? She didn't want pity. She just wanted acknowledgement, dignity. The millionaire took a deep breath, mouth opening slightly as if to speak. But then he hesitated. His gaze dropped, staring at the floor where his polished shoes met the polished marble. Catherine pressed on. "Sometimes, it takes a moment like this to really see people. You need to learn to appreciate them, especially the ones you overlook. There's strength in those you dismiss, even if they wear an apron and hold a mop." With those words, an air of intimacy descended upon the once chaotic room. Sarah felt moments of connection growing between them, with the onlookers, and even with the boy who inspired it all. The millionaire looked up, locking eyes with Sarah. In that instant, something shifted. They were no longer just two people from vastly different worlds, they were something more, a chance for understanding and transformation. "All right," he finally said, voice steadying. "I'm listening. Start from the beginning." Joy bubbled within Sarah, but the shadows of doubt persisted. Would he truly understand, or was this just a fleeting moment? But before she could respond, another figure slipped forward. This time, it was a man in tailored clothing, holding a notebook. "Sorry to interrupt," he called out, voice tinged with urgency. "But I think the media has just caught wind of what happened tonight." A knot formed in Sarah's stomach. Would this attention be good or bad? As eyes shifted to the newcomer, panic crept in. What awaited them outside this room? With the answer looming ahead, they stood on a precipice, about to step into the spotlight. But was it a mark of change, or was it an entrance to another battle? Beneath the uncertainty, the flicker of hope remained. As the murmurs intensified, Sarah wondered if this was just the beginning of a more extraordinary journey than she had ever imagined. Catherine's words hung in the air, a whirlwind of emotion swirling around Sarah. She clasped Tyler's hand tighter, feeling the warmth of his small fingers. It was a connection that grounded her in the chaos. As the stranger from the media moved closer, Sarah felt the weight of expectation pressing down. She could almost hear the clicks of cameras in her mind, the scribbles of reporters. This wasn't the attention she'd wanted. This was a spotlight that burned bright but had the potential to scorch. "Maybe we should step outside," the newcomer suggested, glancing at the crowd that had morphed into a sea of eager faces. "It might be easier to talk there. You'll need to prepare for questions, and I'm sure people want to hear about what happened." The millionaire looked torn, glancing between Sarah and the door. "I don't want her to feel pressure," he said, his voice softer now. "This should be about her." Catherine nodded, grounding his gaze with her fierce intensity. "We can set the terms. Sarah's story must be told her way, if at all. It's only fair." To Sarah, the hallway felt like both an exit and a trap. She could feel the crowd's eyes, 100 invisible weights pressing against her back. Could she muster the courage to share her story? The truth of her life was far more complex than the gleaming headlines would suggest. "Are you okay?" Tyler whispered up at her, his innocent eyes piercing through her fears. She knelt down, cupping his cheeks gently. "I'm okay, buddy. Just a bit overwhelmed." "But you," she ruffled his hair, "you were so brave today." His face broke into a smile, and Sarah felt a warm surge of pride. "Okay," she said, standing up. "Let us do this." The crowd murmured again as they made their way towards the exit. With every step, her heart raced, anticipation and anxiety mingling into a cocktail of emotions. Outside, the night air hit her like a cool washcloth on a fevered forehead. The press gathered in a tight circle, cameras blinking like fireflies. Sarah's gut churned at the thought of sharing her life with strangers. Cassandra instinctively stepped to the front, her protective stance a solid wall between Sarah and scrutiny. "Let us start simply," the reporter with the notebook urged, voice calm. "What led you to jump in?" Sarah felt her breath hitch. She glanced at the millionaire, who stood back, hands in pockets with a look of earnestness. This was her moment. "I saw him struggling," Sarah began, the words tumbling out. "He was drowning, and I couldn't just stand by. There was no choice. My heart just reacted." Her hands trembled. "I grew up in tough situations. You want to know why I did this? Because I know what it feels like to be lost and forgotten. I couldn't let another soul, anybody, be in that position." The murmuring crowd fell into hushed silence, absorbing her every word. The sincerity in her voice filled the gaps of uncertainty. She could almost feel walls beginning to crumble. A voice piped up from the back, a woman with wavy hair and tear-brimmed eyes. "That was so brave of you." As Sarah's gaze swept through the crowd, she saw nods, smiles, and warmth that filled some of the loneliness inside her heart. This was the connection she didn't know she needed, but before she could dwell on the feeling, the reporter leaned closer, sensing the shift in the room's energy. "It's incredible you stepped up, but we'd love to know your story too. How do you manage life when everyone counts you out?" The question hung heavy in the air. Sarah felt the room inching closer, her heart thumping wildly. Would she open up about the struggles? What if they didn't understand? What if suddenly, her whole life felt exposed, teetering on the edge between vulnerability and strength? Taking a deep breath, Sarah prepared herself to dive into the depths she had tried to keep hidden. But would revealing her true self be liberating or a new kind of vulnerability? The glint of hope shone through, yet shadows lurked on the outskirts. What truth lay ahead? The crowd shifted, anticipation flowing like electricity through the air. Sarah swallowed hard, feeling the weight of their eyes probing her very essence. She steadied herself, focusing on the warmth of Tyler's hand still clasped in hers, his innocent gaze a lifeline amidst the swirling storm. "I grew up in chaos," she said finally, her voice steadying, "with more loss than I knew how to handle." The words bubbled from a place deep within her, a space she rarely dared to explore. Each syllable felt monumental, a bridge connecting her past to this pivotal moment. "My mom worked 2 jobs just to keep us afloat. We weren't the family that others admired. We were the ones people walked past." A low murmur rippled through the crowd, and she caught a glimpse of understanding in the faces surrounding her. Not everyone was a stranger. Some wore expressions of empathy, a reminder that hardship was a universal language. "A few years ago, my little brother fell into a river," she continued, memories flooding back. "He was only 5. I couldn't let my mom bear another loss. I jumped in, but he was swept away. I still hear his laughter in my dreams like a siren that reminds me of what I can't change." Tears pricked at the corners of her eyes, but she blinked them away. She didn't want pity, she wanted connection. "I've spent my life trying to save others, to give them what I couldn't give my brother. To be seen, to be heard," she confessed. "That's why I jumped in for Tyler. I know the darkness that surrounds you when you feel like you don't matter. I couldn't let that happen to him." Silence enveloped the gathering, the murmurs replaced by a potent awareness of shared grief and triumph. Sarah could feel the collective breath of those around her as they processed her words that revealed not only struggle but also resilience. "I thought I was just a cleaning lady," Sarah said, her voice faltering slightly, "just an ordinary nobody. But maybe, just maybe, there's more to me than I thought." Catherine stepped forward, her expression fierce and proud. "Sarah's courage is extraordinary," she declared, her voice ringing out above the murmurs. "But we all have the capacity to be heroes in our own lives. Don't underestimate who you are." A ripple of applause broke through the tension, clapping hands lifting beer bottles and phones alike in solidarity. For the first time that night, Sarah felt the stirrings of acceptance and belonging, the shadows receding as sparks of hope ignited within her, but just as the room began to breathe freely, a voice rang out from the back, cutting through the tide of positivity. But what happens now? Does this change everything for you? The question echoed, heavy in the air. All eyes turned back to her, the weight of uncertainty pressing down again. She felt the intensity of expectations, that familiar swirl of doubt netting her tightly. Part of her wanted to say it would all be okay, that her life could be redrawn after this night. But another part of her recoiled. Was she ready for a spotlight so bright? As she searched the crowd for answers reflected back at her, her heart raced once more. What would her truth forge for her future? Would she step fully into this new role? The silence deepened, the crowd hanging on her next words. In that moment of expectancy, she understood the journey was only beginning, but this time, she wouldn't be alone. Would she share more about her past, or would she cling to her fears and retreat back to that old life? A whirlwind of emotions and decisions awaited her, each one carrying a life-altering weight. Would she summon the will to embrace her truth in the face of her deepest vulnerabilities? The air thickened with possibility, the question lingering just beneath the surface: what was she really willing to risk for the chance of a new beginning? The air buzzed with possibilities, yet time felt as if it had come to a standstill. Sarah stood in the midst of the crowd, a whirlwind of emotions swirling around her. The faces of strangers turned friends looked back at her, eyes eager and hopeful. Her heart raced, pounding against her chest like a drum signaling both fear and anticipation. As murmurs passed among the spectators, Sarah took a deep breath, feeling Tyler's small hand intertwined with hers. His unwavering faith in her pushed her forward, igniting the flicker of courage that still resided within. This moment wasn't just about what she had accomplished that night, it was about embracing the woman she truly was. Yes, she began, her voice firm yet nurturing, this changes everything. The crowd held their breath, their attention riveted. It took me years to realize I am more than what I've been labeled. I'm not just a cleaning lady, I'm a mother, a fighter, and I hold stories within me that can empower others. The room sighed, the atmosphere becoming charged with understanding. Sarah leaned into the warmth of their shared humanity. I won't pretend my past hasn't shaped me, but witnessing the pain and struggles of others has shown me that we are all capable of so much more. In that moment, she saw it, the flickers of acknowledgement transform faces once shadowed by prejudice. A voice sprang from the back, but how do we support you moving forward? A woman with deep brown eyes stepped forward, genuine curiosity shining through. I want to use this voice, Sarah continued, her heart swelling with purpose. Let us create a community that recognizes the power of every individual, regardless of their background. I want us to band together, to support each other and build bridges instead of walls. The audience exchanged glances, and a ripple of murmurs began to grow, a cohesive strength binding them. Catherine leaned closer, her face aglow with excitement. Sarah, we can advocate together. We can launch programs that uplift those who feel unseen. Challenges can bring change, and you're living proof. I'd join that effort, a man in the crowd called out, his voice resolute. Let us integrate support systems for everyone in our community. Yes. Cheering erupted. Sarah felt her energy surging. This was the spark she had imagined when she thought of change. The moment of transformation had arrived. Thank you, everyone, she said, emotion thickening her voice. For seeing me, for hearing me. We are not defined by our pasts, but by what we aspire to be. By coming together, we can make our community a better place for all. I want to be a part of that change. The applause swelled, echoes of unity reverberating in the air. Sarah felt the warmth of renewed hope wash over her, dispelling her prior fears. It was a collective awakening, a shared hope for a brighter future. She wasn't alone anymore. Together, they were building something magical. Tyler beamed at her, pride radiating from him like sunlight breaking through clouds. You did it, Mom. He exclaimed, eyes shining with admiration. Her heart swelled. She had not only saved a life, she had revealed her own strength and ignited the potential for a movement that could uplift many. As the gala drew to a close, Sarah stepped back and took a deep breath, feeling a sense of completion wash over her. The vibrant chatter of the crowd faded gently into the background, leaving her standing tall amidst the celebration. She glanced around, taking in the smiles, the conversations, and the acknowledgement of her contribution. Maybe, just maybe, she had not only stepped into their world, she had opened the door for others to step in as well. Tomorrow would be a new day, a fresh start. The journey ahead would be challenging, but the light of hope burned brighter than ever. And as she stepped back into the community she loved, Sarah knew this was just the beginning, that she could be a beacon of change, a voice for the voiceless. She smiled, ready for everything that lay ahead, knowing she was not just a cleaner, not just a hero, but Sarah, an unstoppable force of hope, determination, and love. Don't let this moment slip away. You need to subscribe now for more exclusive stories that inspire and uplift. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, and let the world know how powerful these stories are. Comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending below, and above all, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Your engagement is worth more than you know. It creates a ripple of positive change.